Yo, 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 Don Mafia. Welcome to yet another edition of the Don Mafia Report. That's right, you read the title correctly. I am going to react to the thousands of mock drafts that have been posted about the Buffalo Bills throughout the past couple of months. And as you know, a pretty big event is happening this week, as a matter of fact. It is the NFL Combine, where we will be able to get a better idea of some of the skill sets that some of these for sure first rounders will demonstrate and sort of formulate our own opinion of whether or not that they are capable of making that next step to an NFL roster. It almost seemed like once we got to the later half of the 2019 season, you started seeing some mock drafts, right? As soon as when the college regular season ended and then it transitioned into bowl games, that's when talk started happening. Now, specifically with the Buffalo Bills, we have heard countless of different names, speculations of who exactly we are going to pick up on the 22nd pick of the first round. I mean, we have heard a variety of edge rushers. We've heard a lot of receivers. That seems to be the most popular candidate from what we want the Buffalo Bills to pick up. And then, sometimes we'll even hear a safety, perhaps. Sometimes we'll hear a running back. At the end of the day, none of us really know what the Buffalo Bills are going to do once the NFL draft happens, but it's very, very exciting to speculate. Now, you might remember that I did my own mock draft a couple of weeks back. I still plan on doing another one in the future, but what I figured that we should do is go through some of the main media outlets. And so look at their mock drafts, see who they have us picking at 22, and then we'll decide whether or not that we agree with this specific pick. So I think that would be a tremendous way to take this video. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. So first mock draft that I ended up finding was by Dane Brugler from The Athletic. Dane Brugler has us picking the edge rusher from LSU, K'Lavon Chaisson. This is what he wrote. With Shaq Lawson a pending free agent and Jerry Hughes entering his age 32 season, the Bills are in position to address their pass rush with a premium draft pick. Chaisson bursts off the edge to win the corner or convert his speed to power and also shows the athleticism to drop and cover. Now, this is a very interesting pick. Number one, because we're not going for a receiver, and we are going to be then focusing on an edge rusher, which, like I said, this is very hard to predict what the Bills are going to do, because will the Bills end up finding a common ground with Shaq Lawson and bring him back, or are we going to let him walk? If say that we do let Shaq Lawson walk, then this pick would make a lot of sense. He's probably one of the most versatile edges in the entire draft class, and say that he even falls to us at 22, I would not be upset about it whatsoever. So this guy is a 6'4", 250-pound edge rusher from LSU. So like The Athletic pointed out, his strongest trait is the fact that he can absolutely explode off the line of scrimmage and dominate in space. Now, there are a couple of red flags. Unfortunately, in 2018, he suffered an ACL tear. He still has room for upward growth right as a pass rusher in terms of developing his vision to read the set of his blocker and attack in the most effective way. While the rush variety has improved, timing and deployment of moves is still developing. He still has room to fill out his frame and add functional strength. Now, this is going to be a very popular pick, especially, like I said, if we let Shaq Lawson walk. Would definitely be a very interesting combo having Jerry Hughes and K'Lavon Chaisson. What are we going to do with Trent Murphy? We have no idea, but as far as this pick is concerned, I would be 110% okay with this. So then we end up moving on to NFLcom, Chad Reuter. He also has us going for an edge rusher with the 22nd pick of the first round, and that is Yetur Gross-Matos. Now, I mean, first off, when a guy has a first name Yetur, I mean, clearly you need to draft this guy. So Chad was quoted in saying this. With Shaq Lawson heading toward free agency this offseason, the Bills might look to the draft to keep the defense strong on the edge. Gross-Matos possesses the ability to stack his man on the line and beat him around the corner. So it sounds like from the way that he was describing Yetur Gross-Matos' strong suits is the fact that we have a tremendous guy that can pass rush. And that's one of the biggest things that the Buffalo Bills needed to address on their defense, is pressuring the damn quarterback. We all understand that Jerry Hughes had a tremendous career with the Buffalo Bills, but I mean, he's just getting up there in age. He's 32 years old, and while he can still produce, getting a guy like Yetur Gross-Matos on our D-line would absolutely be bonkers. And so while Gross-Matos has a tremendous upside, there are some cons. Now, according to his scouting report, they say he's not a dynamic athlete by any stretch, doesn't have a very good get-off and lacks good short area agility, has a tendency to get his pad level high, and has an inconsistent motor and doesn't appear to play with the desired emotional endurance late in games. So whether or not that this is a conditioning issue, something that he might need to work on or help make that transition into his first year in the NFL, that's always something to sort of look at. So I mean, while I wouldn't be opposed to taking this guy at 22, just by the cons alone, I would much rather end up taking a receiver at 22, especially if Chasen is not available. Say that Chasen is not available, then I'm going to have to want to go for a receiver over Yetur Gross-Matos, but hey, once again, I'm not in the front office in the Bills, and who knows what's going to happen there. So next we go to an article by Pure Football Foolishness, which is also known as PFF, by Michael Renner. He actually says that we end up trading our 22nd pick to the Detroit Lions. We end up swapping picks with them, and we end up picking at 26, and we ultimately end up taking the first wide receiver suggested in these mock drafts, Denzel Mims from Baylor. And this is what Renner said in his article. The Bills can afford to accumulate more picks by moving back in the draft with how deep this receiving class is. Mims' highlight reel catchability and physicality in contested situations is something the Bills do not currently have. His 20 contested catches in 2019 were the second most in college football. Now, when you look at our quarterback situation in Josh Allen, that seems to be the one characteristic that our receivers did not have. You know, while Cole Beasley was a tremendous route runner, while John Brown had the speed that we needed, it was always those contested catches that left Bills fans, pretty frustrating and yearning for more. I mean, in fact, there were a couple of passes, specifically in our wild card showdown against the Houston Texans, that say that we were to have a receiver that had those type of capabilities, the game might have ended a little differently. But with Mims, he's 6'3", so he reaches that height caliber, and he's 206 pounds. And so right according to the Draft Network, his best skill is hands down ball skills. They quote, "He's such a natural feel for finding the football, tracking and adjusting. Has a strong above-the-rim game, and he's going to win the majority of 50-50 balls sent his way. And easy adjustments made on back shoulder throws, and his concentration and body control along the sideline is outstanding. Does well to position his frame to win at the catch point and extend throwing windows." Now, that's almost a Bills fan's, melody that you would be playing on repeat in your car. That's exactly what Bills are looking for in a wide receiver. So while I'm not the biggest fan of PFF, I really, really do like this pick for the Buffalo Bills. But, of course, with all positives, there's also going to be your share of negatives. So his cons would have to be his route running. With the Draft Network, they quote, "Most effective working the vertical plane where he generates excellent upfield push throughout his stream. Vertical cuts are fluid. High hips present some challenges snapping off comeback routes and executing hard horizontal cuts. Needs to watch his pad level as a route runner, which negates his ability to sell breaks while robbing him of speed. Has room for technical growth." Now, maybe this is something that a wide receivers coach could work on him with. Just the way that he's going up against those contested catches, I think that outweighs his weakness in route running. So, believe it or not, I agree with PFF on this draft pick. And so next comes with ESPN from Todd McShay, and he threw a little bit of a curveball. He said that the Buffalo Bills would select DeAndre Swift from Georgia, which is a pretty interesting take. Now, little do you know, I am a Georgia Bulldogs fan, so I wouldn't necessarily be against this. I mean, the guy is an absolute boss. This is what Todd McShay had to say. "And I just love Swift's explosiveness, and adding a dynamic playmaker like him to a backfield that already includes Devin Singletary could really make his run-oriented offense pop in 2020. Plus, you can't discount Swift's pass-catching ability. He could be a great three-down back." Now, like the way McShay said it, imagine a backfield with those two stud running backs in Devin Singletary and Swift. I mean, we would truly be a run the damn ball first offense. Maybe take a page out of the San Francisco 49ers book. Be a team exactly like that where you only have Josh Allen attempting, 12 to 15 passes a game and really taking control of the game with our run game. So that could be interesting. Now, as far as his strengths are concerned, the Draft Network says that he is a game-breaking playmaker that is a threat to score anytime he touches the ball. He has an excellent feet and vision on zone runs and displays rare explosiveness speed when he gets out on the perimeter. He is a tenacious runner that runs with a strong base and good leverage. He is a tough runner that gets yards after contact due to his tenacious running style, very good base, and relentless effort. He has good hands out of the backfield and consistently wins one-on-one matchups in the open field due to his speed and excellent lateral agility. This player has the skill set to play in any type of offense, but is probably an ideal fit for an inside-outside zone team who will maximize his excellent natural gifts. You could compare him to a Christian McCaffrey of the Carolina Panthers. Now, that could be something that would be super interesting. In my opinion, DeAndre Swift is what TJ Yeldon should have been for the Buffalo Bills, but DeAndre Swift, in my opinion, just has a bit more of an athletic ability than what Yeldon currently has. So with DeAndre Swift, I am 100% on board, but before I even say that I agree, we have to look at the cons, right? So the cons of him are saying that with his tenacious running style and the physicality of the NFL, so the injuries could be a concern at the next level. He is sufficient in pass pro, and if he is to be on the field on third downs, he needs to be more consistent as a face-up pass protector. He will need to protect himself in the NFL, or otherwise he's just going to be another injury-prone running back that ends his career way too early. So this is always something to consider, especially when you're drafting a running back in the first overall round. As much as I'm fine with drafting DeAndre Swift in the first round, I think he would be a solid pick, I guess you could say, but I just think that an edge rusher and a receiver are more so worth a first round than a running back. So while I do like DeAndre Swift, and I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be pissed off, I don't see Brandon Beane going for a running back at the 22nd pick. All right, so next we have Sports Illustrated Kevin Hansen, right? So he actually has us picking T. Higgins, who is probably the biggest name circulating on Bills Twitter, just amongst the Bills fan base in general. A lot of people want T. Higgins to be on this team. So what does Kevin Hansen have to say? The Bills signed a pair of smaller receivers, John Brown and Cole Beasley, last offseason. The duo combined for 139 catches for 1,838 yards and 12 touchdowns. Complementing Brown and Beasley well, Higgins is a big-bodied receiver with a large catch radius who attacks and high points the football well. Higgins tied Sammy Watkins and DeAndre Hopkins for the most receiving touchdowns, 27 in Clemson history. Now, you look at this scenario, he's like the ideal receiver that we are looking for as far as size is concerned, right? He's 6'4", 215 pounds, and he comes from Clemson, who normally bursts some pretty good receivers. This could be the guy that could go up and catch those contested plays. He could be the guy that could be the red zone threat itself. And now let's look at what the scouts are saying about his cons. Right according to Draft Network, it says he needs to become more consistent at using his hands to defeat press on the line of scrimmage. For a bigger wide receiver, I'd like to see him more dominant as a stock blocker. And although he hasn't run a full route tree in the exposures I've evaluated, nothing in his skill set suggests that he can't. Needs to become more consistent at staying focused on the routine catches in the short to intermediate area. So this is something that, in my opinion, could easily be fixed, but say that it's not. He's going to be going up against NFL caliber cornerbacks that are definitely going to press him, especially after reading the scouting report, knowing that he doesn't respond too well to press itself. So will he be able to actually beat a cornerback off of the gate? We're going to have to see. But as far as T. Higgins is concerned, I really like Denzel Mims better than T. Higgins, to be honest with you. I would not be opposed to T. Higgins whatsoever. And all right, so next article was CBS Sports. It was Chris Trapasso. This is also a very interesting pick. He has us going for yet another cornerback from LSU. That's going to be Christian Fulton. And in this article, he said that somewhat of a surprise pick here for Buffalo, but the club does have a sizable need at number 2 cornerback, and Fulton is one of the cleanest prospects at the position in his class. So right according to Draft Network, his best possible trait is his ability to absolutely dominate press man coverage. Now, this could be a cornerback that could absolutely complement Trey White on the other side, because we all know that Levi Wallace tends to struggle at press man, where he somewhat thrives in zones. Same with Kevin Johnson. He's not a bad addition. That's even if we do find a somewhat reasonable deal to bring him back. But having those 2 corners from LSU on the Buffalo Bills, I think that this would just completely solidify our secondary, especially saying that we can agree to terms with Poyer, and of course Micah Hyde's coming back, and then having Trey White, and then in turn having Fulton on the other side would be an interesting take. Now, would you say it's exciting? Yes, but for the exact same reason why I'm not too on board with grabbing Swift, I'm going to have to say the exact thing. I think the Buffalo Bills at the 22nd pick either need to go with an edge rusher or they need to go with a receiver. While this is interesting, I just don't see Bean doing this. All right, so next we have another article from NFLcom. This is by Maurice Jones-Drew. He has the Buffalo Bills going with a wide receiver, and that is Justin Jefferson from LSU. Right in this article, he writes, Jefferson has the size to go up and get the ball, and he's willing to cross over the middle of the field to make plays. And while he didn't really go into a lot of detail in this reasoning behind that pick, I thought that we just go over to our friends at the Draft Network and sort of look at his scouting report itself. He's 6'3", he's 192 pounds. So, I mean, he fits that mold that it seems like Buffalo Bills fans are looking for, a big, burly wide receiver. And so right according to the Draft Network, his pros are this. This player has good proactive athleticism for the position. He's a bit of a strider, but has displayed some instances of suddenness off the line of scrimmage. He has sufficient deep speed on 8 and 9 routes, while also displaying good catch efficiency in the exposures I evaluated. He displays good instincts against zone and will adjust his route accordingly. He's a crafty route runner who knows how to set up defenders to win against man coverage. He is good in contested catch situations and demonstrates very good body control to adjust on the back shoulder throws. Now, just going off of that, that's very attractive coming from a Buffalo Bills fan because, number one, he's great with contested catches, and he's also good at adjusting for, let's say, the opposite shoulder throws, which, we all love Josh Allen, but we know he's notorious for that. So this looks like another player that I could compare to Denzel Mims. That would also be something we could consider right at pick number 22. And so now let's just look at some cons. And although he will likely test with sufficient deep speed overall, his play speed often appears slower than that. He's not a dynamic athlete with regards to change of direction, movement skills, and short area agility. Needs to be more consistent coming off the ball hard to threaten the defender and off coverage as the game progresses. Has some instances of allowing the ball to get into his frame in the short to intermediate area. Due to his lack of elite dynamic ability in short area, he needs to become more consistent at extending on his catches. He may very well be in a lot of contested catch situations against man coverage. For as athletic as he is, he doesn't always create separation at the top of the route against man. He also needs to use his hands better to defeat press. Sounds like these are just some struggles that a lot of rookie wide receivers go through. And so while there are a couple of things that I really like about this guy, I wouldn't say that I would be completely thrilled about this. But I mean, let's say that we end up signing a deal with a receiver in free agency, and then we end up picking Justin Jefferson up as yet another receiver, then I'll be completely okay with it. But I mean, I'm just, super high on Mims, and I'm super high on a specific wide receiver that we'll get to here shortly. And all right, so next article comes from the Draft Network. And this is from Benjamin Solak, and he has the Buffalo Bills taking another edge rusher at number 22, and AJ Espenza. This is what he writes. This isn't the snuggest fit, but hear me out. Mario Addison couldn't find footing in the league until he secured a spot under Sean McDermott when he coordinated the Panthers defense. In that time, Addison grew into a high-impact starter on the edge despite playing north of 260 pounds. McDermott is getting similar growth out of another heavy hitter in Shaq Lawson, who looked like a bust early on in his Buffalo career before McDermott arrived. Now, Lawson isn't guaranteed back in 2020, and his fifth-year option was declined last year. Whether or not he does return, the Buffalo Bills need more consistent edge pressure. They could get it from another big body at this position, and the best edge remaining is AJ. but without Lawson returning, that need becomes all the more dire. I mean, there's been a lot of argument about this. A lot of people don't think that he really is, that level of caliber of an edge rusher, like when it comes to Chasen or when it comes to Gross-Matos. So let's go further a little bit into Draft Network and see exactly what's so great about him. So, I mean, his best trait is hands down his power at the point. Then his worst trait is lateral mobility. So some of the pros. Features exceptional length and overwhelming power. Hands are heavy, and he does well to place and time his moves. Can be devastating bull rushing off the edge, getting on the same level of the passer, shucking the block, and finishing. Pass rush counters developed nicely in 2019, showcasing a variety of hand swipes. His push-pull is deadly, exceptional ability to convert speed to power, and he often plays right through blockers. Generally does well to play with extension, and his length enables him to consistently finish outside his frame. First impression right here, it sounds like that the number one thing that he has over Gross-Matos and Chasen is this. His pass rush counters seem to be one of his strong suits, where you saw that with Chasen and with Gross-Matos, those seem to be some of his weaknesses. Now, that is very, very important, especially when it comes to an edge rusher. The Buffalo Bills, we've been wanting to create more QB pressure, and while Shaq Lawson did an okay job, I think that somebody like Espienza can come in and really make an impact. But, of course, with all pros, there's got to be cons. His cons are this. He's smooth and fluid, but he isn't burstly or bendy. Rush angles must be greased. Won't be much of an asset playing in space. Needs to recognize reach, hook blocks more consistently to avoid giving up outside leverage. Generally does well, but he'll need to be international and keeping his pads low given his height at the next level. So that right there alone is probably the reason why he's so controversial in this draft class. He's not very good in space, right? So when you look at edge rushers like Chasen, who is amazing on the line of scrimmage and in space, you need to consider that. So Espienza, he's not going to be that kind of guy that's going to be able to make plays when a running back is running a pitch or there's some type of jet route or something like that from the backfield. So, I mean, he's that would be something that opposing offenses in the NFL would take full advantage of. And so he doesn't necessarily have that explosiveness like the other defensive ends we've covered already. So with that being said, I mean, say that the Buffalo Bills can't get either Chasen or they can't get Gross-Matos, and I'm going to have to pass on AJ. Not unless we get him in the second round, but that's a different story. And all right, so now we have an article from USA Today. Michael Schwartz at number 22. He has the Buffalo Bills picking Laviska Shenault Jr. He's dynamic and powerful after the catch. Shenault checks off a lot of boxes for Josh Allen and the Buffalo's offense, and that's absolutely true. There have been, several conversations surrounding whether or not the Buffalo Bills should target Laviska. He's probably one of the most popular receivers in this draft, not named Jerry Jeudy. So let's give this a look here. He's 6'2", he's 220 pounds, so he seems to meet, the caliber of size that Buffalo Bills fans seem to be looking for. One of his strong suits was actually ball skills at the University of Colorado. Unfortunately, he really didn't have a lot of opportunities because the quarterback play in Colorado was less than stellar. In fact, he was underthrown several times, so it was very difficult. But the times that he was targeted deep, he did illustrate impressive concentration and body control. Highly assertive at the catch point, meaning that he's able to go up there and make those contested catches that we've so desperately been looking for. Shenault is a versatile weapon that can challenge defenses at every level of the field. An impressive blend of size, physicality, bursts, and ball skills, Shenault has no limitations in the ways he can make plays. Whether it's stretching the defense vertically, winning in the intermediate areas of the field, and uncovering quickly on the short stuff, or used for touches in space out of the backfield, Shenault brings a well-rounded skill set to the table. He's a fierce competitor that is often held back in college, right on account of an unimaginative offense and erratic quarterback play. Shenault's skill set can immediately take an NFL offense to another level and add difficult to defend dimensions to it. So I mean, this is something that stands out very well for Laviska Shenault. Is this the receiver that the Buffalo Bills go for? Personally, I'm 100% fine for it because realistically, like my top two receivers, they're most likely going to be gone by the time that 22 comes around. So I mean, having a player like Laviska ready to go, then I'm 100% fine with it. The only red flag that I see is that unfortunately in 2019, He had surgeries to repair his torn labrum and turf toe. And then I was reading something along the lines of like he has like something permanently wrong with his groin. And I'm not even sure whether or not that he's actually going to be performing in the combine this weekend. So, I mean, that's going to be something interesting. But as far as, you know, my first looks and from what I've read on the guy, I am a huge proponent for Laviska Shenault. All right, last but not least, this is by Mel Kiper from ESPN. The Buffalo Bills have Henry Ruggs III going as their 22nd pick. And before I even read any of these clips, this would be my ideal situation in the draft. Henry Ruggs is the number one guy that I really, really want. Say that he falls to us at 22. So let's get Josh Allen another speedy target in Ruggs, who might be the fastest player in the entire 2020 class. I've been told to expect a time under a 4.3 and 40-yard dash at the combine. Ruggs is more than a speed guy who will catch deep balls. He improved as a route runner in 2019 and can break tackles after the catch. And so we're essentially looking at a clone of Tyreek Hill right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is exactly the type of receiver that Josh Allen would absolutely have a field day with. And so we all know that he's notorious for overthrowing receivers. But for a guy that can run a 4.3 40, I'm pretty sure that he'll have plenty of time to get into space and get under that damn deep ball. But let's put it this way. He was on the outside of Jerry Jeudy. So basically they were the best wide receiver tandem in maybe college history. And Henry Ruggs brings rare speed to the table. The cliche phrases about being a threat to score on every touch are absolutely applicable. One wrong angle or misstep by the defense can result in 6 points because his ability to accelerate is from another planet. And Ruggs isn't just a burner, he's a fairly polished wide receiver that competes as a blocker. Labeling him as just a fast guy is disrespectful to his overall game. It shouldn't take long for Ruggs to become a starting Y or Z receiver in the NFL and be considered one of the most dangerous offensive weapons in the league. He's a matchup nightmare given the attention he will command and a lack of defensive backs that can keep pace with him, even in the NFL level. Now, just reading that, I really don't see a single thing that makes me want to stay away from him, say that he does fall to the Buffalo Bills at 22. Now, there was like one con, I think they said that he's a little lean, and maybe he could bulk up a little bit, but I mean, that's definitely not enough to scare me away. This is a guy that I can compare to Tyreek Hill. He's basically somebody that could, step onto an NFL field and be that guy immediately, be an absolute threat in the NFL almost, the very first regular season snap he takes. So with Henry Ruggs, I mean, he is, oh man, my dream draft, like I told you. And anyway, guys, that's going to have to do it for all the mock drafts that I ended up going over. Say that you're new here. My name is Dan Mitchell, and I regularly put out videos about the NFL and the Buffalo Bills. If that's your cup of tea, I highly recommend subscribing to the channel. I consistently put out videos to entertain you. Besides that, guys, once again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Let's go, Buffalo.